Hey.
So Birdie gets to be the inaugural Midtown podcaster. All right. You get to be the test dummy.
Woo.
So we are starting a new project here at Midtown, and you get to be the very first one. So we're going to do some interviews with our guests, some interviews with our members, some interviews with our coaches. And so we're just going to have a conversation. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. So as I think everybody does know, for the most part, Byrd is my oldest. So this is going to be a fun one. So what I wanted to touch on with you, Byrd, is I think as I think about the gym and this sort of experience that we've been doing, you have sort of grown up here and really were here from the very, very beginning. You were 13 years old when we started. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. 7th grade.
Wow.
The end of 7th grade.
And so we started at Pathway, right? Is that where you started? So tell me what you remember from that. Because I mean, I know what I remember, and I know what I was dealing with in starting the gym and starting that process. But maybe from your point of view, like, how was that being 13 years old, coming down to work out with us and doing CrossFit and stuff like that?
It was weird. I mean, nobody else was doing it. Not that I knew of.
I mean, your peers?
Yeah. 7th grade, I think I started around the time that I quit gymnastics. I think that those kind of coincided. And so it was like looking for a new something
to do.
To consume time.
Sure.
Because I was 13 and
right.
needed something to do.
Now, would you say that it filled the void of gymnastics, or maybe like the competition, the exercise, or it literally was just like, this looks interesting, I'll try this?
I think it gave me something that gymnastics never gave me, was like friends.
Really?
Because I did gymnastics for 8 or 9 years,
Yeah, a long time.
and I never, like, can you ever remember me having a gymnastics friend that I only knew from gymnastics?
No, I guess
that
not.
we
I never
hung
thought of that.
I never made a friend at gymnastics the whole time I was doing it. Like, because I did it for a while, and then I took a couple years break, and then I did it again, and
Same
same thing. No
That's
friends.
interesting. I didn't know that. Now, do you think that is because of gymnastics, the environment, you, all of it?
I just don't think they were my people. Like,
interesting.
they're just kind of rude. Gymnastics girls, you're like, just
Just not for you?
Not nice, yeah.
Interesting.
It never, like, bothered me, but it was just like,
Just didn't vibe well.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, but that's an interesting thing, though, because when you came down and worked at Pathway, it was like me, Ramsey, and Devin, maybe?
It was,
and
yeah.
you?
Yeah.
So even with
Steve.
a bunch of 40-year-old dudes. So would you say that even then with that different atmosphere or with that different peer group, it was still more of a welcoming environment?
Yeah, it was, for sure.
Interesting.
I mean, it was a different
For sure.
dynamic, because they're not the same as, like,
Right.
girls my age.
Right.
But it was still more fun
Yeah.
than I ever had in gymnastics.
Intimidating?
No, I don't think it was that intimidating because I knew you, and
Right.
I was in my space because I've also
True.
grown up in Pathway.
Right.
So it was inside of my comfort zone, like, while trying something new.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So even though you were trying something that maybe had this persona of being challenging or only, was really difficult fitness, it still was not the most scary
Yeah.
thing. So you worked out at Pathway, then now we're here at this location, kind of our formal setting, and it's been 4 years, and now you're coaching classes. You
I
have
am.
your L1, which you had to take twice because you took it when you were 16 and they wouldn't.
Yeah,
license you.
15.
15, dang, that's right. So you got that, and then I guess your plans are, as far as we've talked about, is to get your L2.
Yeah,
and maybe
for sure.
go on further.
Yeah, I would love to get my L2 and L3 and L4. My, like, biggest aspiration at the moment is to be a CrossFit trainer, like, go teach the
Sure.
L1s and L2s and stuff, which kind of an unwritten path to how to get there.
Right,
But
yeah.
I'm going to see what
See how
that
it
looks
goes.
like and try that. That's not a full-time position, so find other
do.
things to do along the way.
Right.
But yeah, I want to keep growing in this space for sure.
So is the desire to become a teacher on the CrossFit side because you love CrossFit so much, or because you love teaching, a little bit of both, or do you know, have you thought about that?
I think both. I think I wanted to be a teacher for a while.
Yeah.
Like all throughout elementary school.
That was
and
your original sort of
before
plans-ish.
Before I found this, but even honestly through like 7th and 8th grade, through middle school, I think I still wanted to be just like a teacher,
right.
An elementary teacher.
Right.
A little different than teaching adults, but there was, I think, something always about that I enjoyed,
right.
or that I was just drawn to. And so when I found CrossFit and I realized that there was teaching potential there, it was really cool.
Fit, right?
Yeah, it was a natural fit. And gymnastics was competitive, so it kind of felt like a break from competition.
Mm-hmm.
But then like it opened a new world of healthier competition.
Sure. Yeah, that's for sure. Because, I mean, CrossFit has a definite competitive side to it. Sometimes it's just competing with yourself.
Right.
I think that's probably the primary thing. I would say, though, that, you know, your desire to become a CrossFit coach and how that happens is a little bit ambiguous, but you're sort of doing teaching right now, right? I mean, you coach classes.
Yeah.
And you're doing PT, so to some extent you're already doing that teaching. What has your experience been being the youngest in the room a lot of times, right? Coaching adults and coaching your peers and coaching people older than you as a
It's
PT.
really interesting. I had to get over it for sure, because get over the feeling of just being like, I'm a child.
Sure.
But there's, I found comfortability in just knowing what I know and like trusting myself that I know the information that I'm teaching. So my age doesn't necessarily, it doesn't matter as long as I'm a good teacher.
Now, do you think that perception of being the youngest in the room, do you think that came from you, or do you think that have people actually said that to you, or do you think that's a perception that you had of yourself, or do you think that was truly a perception that people had of you?
I think a little bit of both. I think it was mostly me, but I think also everybody, or maybe this is also just me, but I think that a lot of people know me through you.
Sure.
And so that automatically I'm your daughter, which makes me younger.
Sure.
Which I don't think is bad, but it just adds another element of like just being a minor, I guess.
Yeah. I think for me, what I remember is that was definitely maybe a fear of yours or a fear of ours in the beginning, right? Because it was such a small group when we first started. And they knew you as my daughter, and they knew you as sort of growing up here. But I feel like, at least in the last year, that has sort of faded. And I think some people now don't even know that we're related.
Yeah.
Right? They just like, it's Byrd, and hey, it's Jeff. And you're like, oh my God, you guys are, I didn't know that.
I think as I'm getting older and as I am, I don't know, becoming less of a child, people just attach me to you less. Because, like, I mean, originally, I was 15 when I got my L1, but I was coaching the kids in teens class before that.
That's right.
I don't know if I was 14 for that, but it was. I was still young, and I think looking at me then, you would be like, that's a child, where's her parents? You know what I mean?
That's funny. That's funny that you had that perspective, but I don't remember anybody saying that to me, and I don't know that I had that perspective.
It totally could have just been me, but like, I feel like looking back, people just attached me to you because looking at me as an individual was like, there's
just natural,
missing.
That's interesting. I think you've done a good job floating that line, like working in a family business, but not being the preferential treatment or getting special things, or you're here just because you're my daughter, or like I really feel like you have earned your keep, and you put in the hard work, and you do the things that you may have the perception that people view you as like you're in your role, you're my daughter, but I think part of your growing up process has been owning that you are sometimes the best in the room, and I think you've done a good job of that.
Yeah, that's something that I worry about even now. That's been a big thing of just like being the boss's daughter and like trying to separate how much I got here myself and how much of it was given to me.
That's interesting. So what is your thoughts on that? Like, not that I'm looking for like a 60-40, but do you think things were handed to you?
I mean, for sure I don't have $1,100 to go get my $2,200 to go get my altitude twice. I think you guys helped. I mean, just an incredible amount, but I don't think that I could have come this far without putting in effort.
Yeah, I think that my approach with you and your mom and with this business is we sort of met you where you were willing to meet us, right? Like, you may look at it like, yeah, I wouldn't have been able to get that L1 by myself, but if you remember, I paid for everybody's L1 when we started the gym.
Yeah, that's right.
So even though you were the youngest and you were maybe my daughter and you may have perceived a special treatment, I paid for Ramsey's and I paid for Alana's and I paid for Adriana, and so I paid for all their L1s. So I think that as an employee, you may have been privy to advantages and times that you were able to step into a role if you were ready, but you weren't given a role.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the opportunity was there maybe slightly more just because you knew the boss, but I don't think you were given anything as I see it. Like, I really think you earned it, and I think people respect you in here for that. I think, it's interesting to see that perspective. I'd be interested to see what other members think. I bet it'd be less than you think, though. That's my thought.
Probably.
So, tell me, maybe just touch on briefly, being a 13-year-old girl in CrossFit, now a 17-year-old, being involved in the fitness space, doing competitions now, right, evolving in that space, and then maybe some of the perceived or real societal pressures of just being a female in the fitness space, whether it's maintaining a certain look or maintaining a weight loss or being able to compete with the guys or whatever those maybe broader societal things that you've experienced, or have you been aware of any of those?
You know, I think if I had stayed in gymnastics, it would have been different because, like I said, it was a whole different world, fitness-wise, body-wise. Like,
that's interesting. And that's different here, you think?
Yeah, for sure. I've never felt any kind of gender norm in the gym space besides the, like, RX female male weight, which is, like, appropriate.
Not
but body-wise, like, it's all just, like, trying to get huge, you know? Which is, like, never something that gymnastics would have ever told me.
Or just in general. High school.
Right.
Just talking,
that's another thing is I didn't go to high school, so I don't have the, like...
Well, let's clarify. You did go to high school.
I did graduate high school. I just didn't go to high school. I did it all online, which I think is also, I don't know, it has its pros and cons because I wasn't around petty girls, people my age. Sure. Nobody was talking about me or my body or that I was aware of because I didn't see them.
It's true.
So I think that helped out a lot, and just like I think starting with the guys, the group of 40-year-old men that were working out, it was all trying to get huge, and I was just like, I was just part of that. I was like, I'm trying to get huge.
Yeah.
Like,
I think too, I tell women sometimes when they come is like the conversation in the gym, our gym, and I think maybe most CrossFit style gyms is you don't hear. I've never heard a woman, to my knowledge, like say here, I'm trying to lose 5 pounds, or I'm trying to lose 10 pounds, but you hear commonly like, I'm trying to get my first pull up.
Yeah.
Right? I'm trying to add 5 pounds to my back squat. I'm trying to get double unders. Right? The goals on their fitness are much different than I think maybe the traditional female discussion around fitness is.
Yeah,
it's interesting
definitely.
to see that.
And I don't know if that's our gym or if that's CrossFit in general.
I don't know
I've
either.
never, really never ventured outside our gym, or community-wise. But I mean, my girlfriend's gym is the same, so maybe it is a CrossFit.
I think it's a broader CrossFit, at least. I've never been to a CrossFit gym where that's the main discussion, or heard that over, I've never been to a gym.
There's really not talk about weight, or honestly, it's been more recently that I see people aware of macros and calories and using the bod pod and stuff, but it's in a really healthy way.
Right, it's like for performance maybe. Or
it's always for performance.
Right, I'm getting my macros in line because I don't want to bonk on a 40-minute WOD, or I'm trying to make sure I'm eating for my performance, and I want to gain some lean muscle, and I know that this is not the way to do it.
Jason Dolans has done a really he's like the model of macros for the gym, because he's just he's done really well with it, and you can tell, and you can see it.
And his performance changed, right?
He's a crazy good athlete. But he's been a really good person for me to talk to, as I've also kind of ventured down the macros and counting and actually thinking about my body weight, but more in a performance.
Like
it's all for performance, right? There were like 2 years ending gymnastics, starting CrossFit. I didn't weigh myself for like 2 years. Yeah. But I also was under eating and overtraining for, however long. There was a period of time, and I started to feel it, and not getting enough sleep. Started to feel it in my body more. It was like, oh, this is maybe a problem. Like when you fail 6 lifts at a weight that you can do, it's like, oh, maybe I should start bringing some attention to this and not just like doing it. There was a turning point too. So I did my first competition with Katrin and Aaron Wade. Festivus. Almost 2 years ago. 1.5 years ago. And then I did my next Festivus with Anthony, and after that he was like, you should start like a cycle, like start programming on top of our regular programming, which I had never thought of before, because this is not, our gym is all about functional fitness, and it's like 40-year-old men who are trying to play with their grandchildren, and it's like It's not about competition. Well, there's always a little bit. There's always a little bit, but people going to CrossFit competitions, like I didn't know that there even were ones besides like Festivus and the CrossFit Games. Like I didn't know about
like what was in between,
anything in between there. So honestly, and I do thank Anthony for this, because I don't think I probably would have gotten there on my own, but I think it would have taken me some time. I started an Olympic lifting cycle, which I took a 12-week cycle, and I made it like 8 months because I wanted to keep doing CrossFit. And I didn't want to overtrain, or because it also wasn't made for me to do CrossFit at the same time, so I had to think about overloading certain joints. And honestly, that changed my mindset so much, because thinking about training in a technical way was honestly, I don't think I had ever thought about it like that. It was always just like, and this is what I do when I'm going to hang out with my friends, and we're going to do this workout. And it was like, cool, I got a PR. Like, I've never done a deadlift before, so it's a PR. But actually thinking about progress over time and how to do it the most efficiently without getting hurt. There's so many pieces to it that I had never considered before. And fitting that into my schedule, doing school, working, and then now trying to train like 2 or 3 hours a day. It was a moment of growth, for sure.
And your fitness really blew up at that time. Not blew up, but like you could see these big gains start to happen as. That
was definitely a turning point in my fitness, along with just like mindset. But like actually starting to hit PRs and see that, and now I'm like, I don't know what I would do without extra stuff on top of my workouts. Like,
I think that speaks to maybe the broader sense of community here, right? So it's not always just about your own personal drive, but having positive people around you, like an Anthony that says, like, hey, you're really good at this, you should try specializing in some 8-week cycles. Oh, what's that, right? He's doing these things as a positive to you, as opposed to maybe what your experience was in the gymnastics, where maybe it was a little pettier or a little more push on individual competition as opposed to uplifting the community in a broader sense. So
yeah, and that was also a time of reaching out to the mentors and the people that had been around me this whole time that were just like my buddies.
Right.
And now I'm like not taking advantage of my resources, but also like taking advantage of my resources.
Well, that's what everyone's here for. And you do the same for those people in other instances, right?
Yeah, like it was Katrin that told me about the comp that I did in June.
Right.
I didn't have social media, so
yes,
if
she's not allowed to have social media till what? 17?
Well, it was going to be until I graduated, and then I got out of it because I graduated early.
Yes.
So I got it at 17 instead of 18.
Early.
So anything that I found out about was through people telling me.
Wow, that's a novel idea.
Right. A competition that's not the CrossFit Games or Festivus? Who knew? But, it was originally Katrin that told me about Atlantic Coast Classic.
Yeah.
We were going to go together, and then something came up for her.
Sure.
And then I still did.
And it was a cool experience. I really enjoyed it. It was a bigger
huge
step up in competition.
Absolutely.
It was fun, though. It was definitely another level of spectatorship as well as competition, and it seemed to be a good, positive experience for everyone, from the elite all the way down to the kids. Like, it was
a really good, well-run
I
competition
agree.
for sure.
So, and maybe wrapping this up a little bit, what if someone's out there and they're like, oh, that's such a cool idea, my daughter or son would love to do something like that. Like, what do you think those first steps are for a 13, 15, 17-year-old person who's never done this at all, right? Because you came in completely green to CrossFit.
Yeah.
What do you have any, I don't know if words of advice or just like what seemed to work well for you and just in that process? Or
I think you have to have someone do it with you in the beginning. Like, the first time I'd ever trained by myself was the Olympic lifting cycle that I started. It was always, and I think you'll find that more times than not, you're showing up for the people, not the workout.
Right. Yeah.
And
like
I
in
think
those days
that's
you don't want to come.
Yeah, and it's not even like it's on the days you don't want to come, but it's also the days you do want to come, because I think that's part of the reason why you want to come and why you want to show up. So I think just find someone who's down.
Yeah.
And just like go
Join
to the
together.
gym and like it could be like a crunch fitness. Just like go learn how to do a bicep curl with your friend, and then the rest is history. Hopefully.
Awesome. All right, Birdie. Well, thank you for being the inaugural one. We did great on this one.
Yay!
And then, we got Mom coming up and Montana and some others, so we'll get going with that. Sounds good?
All right.
Perfect.